Here we are. Huge hello to everybody who's watching. We've got a few on at the minute, getting more and more. Welcome, guys. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we've got some super special guests on tonight. We've got BJ who's there in the background, and he's taking care of all the digital work and the masterpiece. And of course, we're going to welcome Alex, the national 13.5 TC champion. Here he is, Alex, as he looks away. Hey, Alex. Welcome, mate. Welcome. And of course, we've got Simon Nicholson, who's a modified national champion. Welcome in, Simo. Jeez, look at the size of those cups. That's incredible. Is that what you drink out of at night, mate, or what?
Maybe sometimes.
Welcome, guys, and thank you for your time this evening. Yeah, it was really nice to. I actually went up myself up to Canberra Saturday afternoon and spent the arvo at the track with you on Sunday as well. And it was really cool to see the team working together. And honestly, like, we had some fantastic results. You know what I mean? There was smiles around. There was a bit of tension at some point. You know, the weather was closing in just after A2. Yeah, so it was an action-packed weekend. I didn't get there to see, obviously, the Thursday and the Friday practice. So hopefully you guys can shed a bit of light on that sort of side of it as well. We can talk about the setups and the development of your car, as far as your setup, as you change through the weekend, maybe like the bodies that you tried, why you tried different bodies, what you were looking for in your setup. And then we'll talk about your setup sheets, your electronic setup, and then we'll get you guys to commentate a couple of your races and see what actually goes on in your mind while we're racing. So welcome, guys.
Cheers.
Fantastic. So what do we want to talk about first, I suppose? I mean, we've got Alex there who's got 3 national titles to his name. You know, we've got 2 of them with Yokomo. 13.5. I mean, that's a hotly contested class. You'd have to be happy with that result.
Oh, stoked with the nationals, yeah.
Yeah, especially at your home track and that. Like, you were going to be a hard man to beat, and you just drove so calm and composed. We also had Christian Silva, who was right up on your tail. You know what I mean? Things didn't go his way, but, you know, we had BD11s at the pointy end of the field, no doubt. And then Simo's run, wow, he just like dropped the hammer every run, apart from A2 where we had a little bit of an incident, and then we had a bit of a tyre strategy where we wanted to save him for the 3rd run. You were just like that far in front all weekend. It was so impressive to see. Hey, you just had total control.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
You did really well. You did really well. So what do we want to talk about first, guys? What are we going to show first?
Oh, look, we should probably go over the BD11 itself.
Yeah? All right. So both of you obviously were running the BD11, which is Yokomo's latest offering in the 1/10 TC space. The car's been available for, nearly 9 months now? How long have you had yours for, Simo? Maybe not quite a year?
Yeah, a bit less than a year, I think. From
Yeah. So I think they were coming out sort of February or whatnot. So, and in that time, how have you guys found the cars, or what sort of ways have you gone, apart from obviously the box, when you get everything in the box? Like, what have you changed from it?
So for me, well, we first started at the state titles with it, the New South Wales state titles. Basically just put it on the track just before it. I started with basically kit set up from there, made some changes and stuff like that. I thought it was going in a direction that I wanted it to, but actually it was the wrong way. So a bit more testing after the state titles, came back to more or less kind of closer to box setup actually. And yeah, we just basically been going from there. And then like the BD10, like it had a really good setup window, and you know, when we've got a really good base setup, we can just rock up at any track and just make very minor changes, and it's good straight away.
So you'd say that the window of tuning's pretty large, like, you know what I mean? If you've got a good base setup.
Yeah,
and the standard geometry, we'll have a look at the setup sheets after, but like the setup sheet that I saw of yours, Simo, wasn't that far. Like there was no drastic changes from the box setup, other than like severely sort of stiffer springs and what comes in the kit. The roll center's a little bit higher and long links. I mean, it was pretty standard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just minor changes. Like the box setup they go for a bit of an adapted setup between asphalt and carpet because designed in Japan, a lot of Japan racing is carpet. So they kind of try to keep it a bit of a middle ground. So it's just some of the basic stuff, where you change between asphalt and carpet. And yeah, that's been it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Alex, obviously the BD11 was a new car for you because you came back to the team just not too long before the Nationals, a couple months before. So you were excited to get the BD11. Now, how did you find it coming back to Yokomo?
It's similar to the BD10 when I had it in that, again, pretty much out of the box with very minor changes. It's quick and on the money. And there is a bit of a setup window with it. It's not a very, other cars, for example, there's a small margin, but with the BD11, it's on the money, responds to change as well. It does what you want it to do. Like you notice every change on it. The one that did catch me by surprise, I guess, was the stiffer springs, a bit stiffer to what I'd normally run. But outside of that, the car's been amazing.
Yeah. And why do you think, like, we've got some pictures of the car here. Why do you think, Simo, because I'm quite shocked as well, how, like, we've got 2.7 on the rear and 2.8s on the front was much harder than the BD10. What do you think the main reason for going such a firmer spring?
This was the same spring we're using on BD10.
Oh, was it? You're running that hard?
Yeah, exactly the same shock setup actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's quite common for asphalt. Really, you want to get the tires to like bite into the ground. You're not worried about traction rolling, so yeah, there's no need to run the really soft springs. You're not really gaining anything out of it.
Yeah. So it's just about, like you said, pushing the rubber into the track to generate the traction.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And how did you find, I suppose, one of the biggest departures in the design of this car, apart from the carbon arms, is the way that the top deck mounts to the rear bulkhead.
Yeah.
Now,
So that's
are you using it in the flexible sort of kit way, or have you got it locked up more like the BD10?
Yeah. So at the state titles, it was just a totally new thing for us back then, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I started off with it flexi, and then I thought, well, like, is this only for when it's really, really low grip, or what is it? So I I put the BD10 top deck on it and locked it up, and it felt good, stable, all that. But then, yeah, since then I've gone back to the flexi, the bearing, and all that. It's definitely different driving style compared to the 10 with it, and I had to adapt to it.
So you can see it here in this photo. That's how the top deck mounts to the bulkheads. And we've got these two little black O-rings here. I'm not sure if we can get the pointer over there. No, clearly. There we go. we got remote mouse movement. So those O-rings, you can either run rubber O-rings, or you can actually shim to lock up a bit more.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. But you effectively run it like in a flexi way in the current setup.
Yeah. So actually, we never tried just with the bearing in, but having shims in to make it that little bit locked there. Well, I never tried it myself. The guys tried overseas, and they said that they didn't really like it. So basically, the only options we run is as is with the O-rings and kit with the bearing, everything kit, or just completely putting the BD10 top deck in, or the RC Maker top deck insert to just completely lock that center post.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And you find the same thing too with yours, Alex? You're running the flexi rear mount, or have you got yours locked up?
No, I'm running the standard rear mount to the flexi.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, the Nationals, I did try the lock top deck versus the standard with the bearing. The bearing felt better, I guess, for my driving style and track conditions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like
and
with the bearing in there, I've noticed lately, it really greatly improves on old tires.
yeah,
It almost gives back that new tire kind of feeling, where if you run it locked with the older car and like a lot of other manufacturers, they're more struggle on the older tires, but this kind of brings that bite back to the car, like on new tires.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, fantastic. Steve wants to know how much for the Gold Cups.
Too much for you, Steve. Too much for you.
Yeah.
Well, he had some pretty well assembled cars for him, and you know what? He would have had a good shot to win some cups.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I suppose what's some of the other things that we can talk about now? Do you want to have a look at your setup sheets?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
we'll
mate.
bring up one of the setup sheets and we can have a look there. We've got Beej in the background. So who have we got here? We got Alex. Now
Yes,
there's a
that's
couple
mine.
of errors on. There's a couple of errors on here.
Yeah,
Alex,
so I wrote down I had short links when my links are all long front and rear, and carbon chassis, not the alloy chassis.
yeah. Now, have you experimented with long and short links on your car, Alex?
I did. I tried the shorter links in practice. The car was still pretty good, but the overall feel and I think directional change was better with the long links.
Yep.
So yeah, we stuck with that for the weekend.
And that probably has a lot to do with the control tire that we're using too, no?
Yeah, correct.
Yep. And the track conditions. So I can see here that you've got you had tread spaces on the front.
Yeah, because of the tires that we ran at the event, they were very close to rubbing on the front hub. So
Yep.
we spaced them 0.5 mil just to make sure we've got clearance.
Just to ensure that they weren't spacing. And looking at the front end of the car here, what's on screen, what did you try on like over the weekend? So you rocked up to the track Thursday. What did the car? How did the car progress to like Sunday afternoon?
I kind of went in a full circle in practice. So Thursday, Friday, I tried a number of different roll center changes, ranging from 0.5 mil in the front to 1 mil in the rear, and then going all the way to 3.5. Happy medium was 1.5 mil under the blocks in the front and 2 mil in the rear. The other items that sort of changed as the weekend went on were just minor changes like bump steer and Ackerman. The other adjustment that was sort of going up and down with weather was the rear gear diff.
Yep.
When the track was in lower grip conditions, it was a 3K. When it picked up, put the 4K back in just to get a bit more drive out of the corners. Yeah, I mucked around with shock oils as well. I tried a softer shock oil, so I tried a 350, but it wasn't as quick as the 400.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very good. That's fantastic. And I can see here you got 1.3 front and rear. That seems to be a
Correct.
really, really common setup
It
for the
is,
cars out of the
and
box.
it is, and I think when the grip's there, the 1.3 combo front and rear works well
Yep.
for stock. But I think in the lower grip conditions, I'd go back to a 1.2 rear bar.
Yep. And I can see you've only got 3 screws in the motor mount.
Yeah, I mucked around. I tried a few different combinations, and for me, this combo actually worked the best. Even having the rear screw in. Simon's setup only has the 2 front screws, but for me, it was different. Like my driver style preferred the rear screw in.
Yeah. I'd even if I was driving, I think I'd have to have nearly every screw in now. Otherwise, I'd rip the motor mount clean through the chassis with how hard I crash. But yeah. And then going to the rear. So you said you played around with the diff oils.
Yeah.
What other adjustments have we got there? No, we've got the short links. And pretty
just a rear
standard
toe.
droop. Pretty
Yeah,
standard
pretty
droop
standard.
settings. They didn't change much.
No, they didn't really change too much. And rear toe was the other one. Again, with depending on the track conditions and what the grip was like, varied between 3 degrees and 2.5.
Yep. Yep. And did you run much like rear toe gain on the rear of the car with the toe
No, so
control
I think on
system?
my setup, I've only got a 0.5 mil. So only being new with the car, I sort of haven't being able to test as other items as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I kind of played it safe with the real toe game.
Yeah. And I suppose because you only had so many tires, I mean, it's more about looking after your tires as well, isn't it? You couldn't, I suppose the car setup had to take in consideration that you weren't going to be running on fresh rubber every heat.
Well, correct. You know, we're like for 13.5, we're limited to 3 sets for qualifying and racing. And especially when Christian won, or he had TQ'd with 1 set, he had 2 new sets for finals. So kind of tie strategy does play a bit of a part into it.
Yep. Yep. Fantastic. Yeah. Now, and in your car, you're running the R1 setup that you've been pretty happy with. So you've got R1 6,000. So that's an ultra low center of gravity battery, 6,000.
No, they're not an LCG pack. That's just a standard.
Okay, so that's a full size. I was going to say because that's a small pack for stock, but yeah, that's a full size pack. And you've got the Digital 3 R1 Works Speedy.
Yeah.
And you went with the matching motor, of course.
Yeah.
And it's pretty lightly geared, 9642. What does that come out at?
That was a 4.35 FDR.
Okay, so that's pretty heavy on the gearing. You know what I mean? I think some guys were up at 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see on your setup sheet there, you've got a extreme twister.
Yeah, I prefer kind of like a edgier car to drive, and the twister suits my driving style. I did try the Wolverine, but again, it wasn't for me.
Yep. And did you try the same body mounted in different ways over the weekend or not? You just have
no.
forward, that's it.
I kind of stuck with the 4-wheel forward position.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not really one to chase setup through bodies. I'd rather find a body that works and then find the setup through the car.
Yep. Fantastic. All right. Now can we bring up Simon's one and have a look how it differs from yours a bit. Obviously, it's going to be a modified car, so it's got a fair bit more power, and obviously there will be different driving techniques and styles. So talk us through yours, Simo. What have you got going on there?
So yeah, it's all basically the same, nearly. I do run lower on the top cambling shims, so 1 mil compared to 1.5.
Yeah.
I just feel like the one just gives it that bit more grip and aggression. And I did have the 2 mil also under the front roll center shim, so I had 2 front, 2 rear, just to keep. I like to keep the car very balanced, front to rear. Yeah, harder shock oil by the look of it a bit. Yeah, other than that, pretty close, really. Just a bit different diff oils and motor mount screws. Yeah.
Now that's obviously you've got the 2 screws in there. We can see the red dots on your motor mount as opposed to Alex's 3. What do you find running the 2 screws? Is the car just more agile in its change direction, or
so with the screws like that compared to more at the rear, it's more like rotation. The car kind of twists more at the rear around the corners. So it makes it harder to drive a bit, but for me, it's faster. Like if you drive it smooth, it's faster. Yeah. So it kind of, anytime I try it more at the rear, the car kind of feels too stuck, too locked in for me. Yeah. So it just comes down to driving preference, really. Like any screw you put in there, I don't think you're going to gain or lose, tenths of seconds. It's just what you prefer, you feel.
Yeah. So a lot of these setup changes are not, like you said, they're not going to gain you or lose you any time per se. It's really about making the car comfortable for your driving habits, your driving style.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've got 2 mil under the balls in the rear, in the lower roll center position.
Yeah.
Did you play with that under that? Did you play with that adjustment over the weekend, or you were locked in at 2 mil?
No, so before the event, I've always ran 1.5, and I went to 2 before it, and it gave a little bit more traction, like not a massive difference, but I just kept it because it wasn't worth. So I just thought it would be all right.
And it was obviously pretty. Now you guys had 4 tires in mod, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have burned up 2 in qualifying, I'm tipping, and you saved yourself two for the finals.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I ran the one set to start off with, and I TQ the first 2 rounds on that set, and then the other guys put on a new set for the third round. And there's no way beating new tires on third run tires with that brand of tire. So I was gonna risk it and try and keep because I knew my car was really good on old tires. And I had fairly good confidence I could still at least get. I only had to get one more round win to take the 2Q. But I thought, like I'm going to get 2 new tires anyway for the finals, and the car was good for if I had to go to the third final for it. I knew the car would be really good on the third run tire, the second run tire. The other guys I knew would have struggled more with it, so I just went for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you burned up 2 in quali, and earned yourself TQ, and then you saved yourself 2 for the finals.
Yeah, and it was a good chance too because I wanted to try a couple of things still with the new tire in setup wise. So I kind of use those qualifying rounds with the new tire to try and make some setup changes.
Yep. Did you experiment at all? Because I mean, the weather was quite. Even when I was there, just a day and a half, the weather went from like 26 and sunny to like 13 and rain. Did the car set up like your diffs, or did anything change in the setup wise between heats? Not really.
No, not really. The only thing I tried changing was just going up to 6,000 in the rear diff, and I'd done that for the last qualifier on the Saturday, and the car was really, really good, and so I left that for.
And that was on second run tires, yeah.
Yeah, it was second run tire. The track was cooler, but I think the grip was up a lot more by that time, and the car was really good, so I left it for A1. But that Sunday morning, the track was obviously lower grip and it was a bit cooler again. So it was a bit of a struggle in A1. But yeah, that's why I kept it for A2 also, thinking it would get better with the hotter track and maybe the track grip came up, but it didn't. So I ended up going back for the third final.
Oh, so you went back to 5K for the third final?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did have that sort of rainstorm after A2. And that would have reduced the track, would have washed off any sugar water, any rubber that was down, that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
I suppose having the 6 in there, at least it gave you a fallback position.
Yeah, well, I knew the 5K was safe to drive and it was fast enough as it was anyway. So I just left it. I just put that back in and went with it for A3.
Yeah, fantastic. Now going down a little bit further on the sheet, obviously you're a mod driver, so you were running a 5-turn, not the. I mean, it's widely accepted that 4.5 turns is the motor for TC modified.
Yeah, normally I use 4.5 everywhere actually, but the guys talked me into trying the 5-turn, and I was quite shocked. It was as fast as the 4.5 on the straights, just a little bit easier. So I tried that and it felt smooth in that. So I left that in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I personally I just like the look of the motor. Obviously, it's because it's a solid turn, not a half turn. So the collector rings up the back near the sensor board, leaving the front windings all open for a little bit better cooling in my mind. But yeah. You went with a 5-turn. I know that John Puce was running a 5-turn, and probably Steve Cornell probably had the 3.5 in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had 110.31, which is a pretty big pinion by mod.
Yeah, just for the 5-turn. Yeah, it gives like a 6.7 rollout.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the 5-turn, it's fine.
And Aeromax 5900s. I mean, you're a pretty smooth driver anyway. But how many milliamps would you be burning up in your 5-minute run?
I think from memory, I was coming back with like 7.5 volt.
Yep.
From memory. Yeah, like it's around that track. It's not. Yeah, it's pretty easy on the gear around there.
It's pretty easy on the gear.
Yeah.
And I can see you've actually run the same body as Alex. So you're using a twister as well.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a super popular body, isn't it, at the moment, for sure?
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty good all-round body. You can just put it on most tracks, and it just like you're not going to go wrong with it, really.
Yeah.
But kind of like the setup, it comes down to personal preference to feeling, which body kind of style you like.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, can we have a look at your electronic setup? Because obviously, I mean, Alex has got a blinky setup, so it's not going to be as much detailed as the mod setup. I'm really interested to see how you run on that track, because it wasn't a particularly high traction track. I can see in your setup sheet there you've got low to medium, 35 6.7 rollout. Talk us through your speedy settings, and did they change much for this event or that motor, or do you just pretty much turn up with this setup everywhere?
It's a very common setup that I use, actually, and it's quite funny. Like it's a very similar setup to what I use with the 4.5. Even, I just turned up the turbo a bit more. I also went from the 8,000 to 10,000 on the PWM. It was just a bit smoother again. Also, the boost, the punch, all that I kept the same actually as the 4.5. Softening I always run on 1, which is the strongest softening.
Yep.
Drag brake, same everywhere basically. Nearly. I never really run compress, and all the other settings is basically just default. Really. Yeah, there's not too much you need to change on the dash, and it just works. It's a really smooth, speedy to run with.
We can obviously see there by your turbo delay that you've obviously got a very smooth trigger finger. You know what I mean? If I had 0.1 on my turbo delay, I'd be through the pit building for sure.
Well, it depends on the size of the track. Like you don't want to go if you go too long in your turbo delay. 0.1's that's the most common. If you go any longer, you're really making it harder for yourself because it's coming in later, just as you're going from corner to corner.
Yeah.
And it kicks in harder as well the later it is because it ramps up more before it kicks in. So yeah, 0.1 is good. Actually, like it's more when you go to really big tracks. You could go to like 0.2, just for that, like harder for it to come in faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously you've got your, just normal LiPo, auto cutoff switched off for running. Yeah, just pretty simple. So you don't have any drastic settings, which is really, nice to see that there's nothing too crazy going on there. So it's like a mere mortal can run a fairly standardized setting. There's no need for massive tuning scope.
Yeah, most of the guys, like the other guys, John and Steve, and that they're all running basically the same setup as me.
I'm sure that Steve's running more boost than you, more turbo.
No, he likes to keep it similar. So he's trying to get into that smooth driving kind of feeling. So it's it's good. It's good that most of us can use the same setup actually, which is it makes it easier for them. They can just use whatever I'm using basically.
Yeah, well, that's really easy. And Jeff Hammond as well. I mean, I know a while back that he was sneaking around for some speedy settings as well. Obviously, being a nitro guy and a really experienced racer, I mean, he's also top 10 in the world in his field. And being an Aeromax dash driver, I imagine that his speedy settings are somewhat similar.
Actually, no, his settings he goes quite high with them. He likes heaps of boost, heaps of turbo, heaps of punch. Yeah,
But he runs a lot of compression too, doesn't he?
No, I think he's got it off as well.
Yeah. Okay. Last setup I saw I think it had like 17 compression or something on there, but that was a while ago. Yeah.
But no, he usually likes his with a lot of power. Like the last two events, he he keeps asking me, I want more power, more power. I'm like, it's too fast as it is, but that's what he likes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But he actually he was a fierce competitor on the weekend, no doubt. And he did really well just for a, like I said, a one-off sort of nitro race to come in and put it at the top of the field. Goes to show how good he's pedaling that car and how good that Aramex stuff is. All right. So do you guys want to have a look at one of your races?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to have a look at one of your races? Who wants to go up first? Nobody?
we'll go now first. Yeah.
Which one pops up? Here we go.
All right.
We got Alex up
A1.
first.
There we go.
All right, Alex. So I want you to talk along with Scotty and talk us a little bit through the race.
Oh, look, I'm looking. I was packing it.
So who we got number one?
Christian Silver.
Christian
Another
Silver.
PD11.
Here we go up
Yeah.
and running. A-man number one.
Yeah, so I know I needed to put the pressure on Christian because I know he's a fast driver, especially here. But I got lucky. I got lucky there where he spun. I don't know how, but
I had a bit of a taste after I lit it up, yeah?
yeah.
Christian gonna go
So
by.
now that I had a bit of a gap, my
Alex
mindset
out
was
front,
pretty much
Christian
just to
second,
keep it clean, keep off the
followed by
curbs.
Nathan and Lincoln. Great
And
start
that
for
can
Lincoln.
sometimes be, I mean,
Up to
yeah.
the 4.
I mean, you guys are national champions, so I don't even compare, but I find leading from the front, per se, a lot harder than chasing somebody down, you know, because you've really got to stick to your own rhythm, follow your own markers.
I often like to check. It's always good to TQ, but it's also sometimes fun to chase the leader down and put that pressure on.
Oh,
so
no, Christian tracks a roll there. No, go.
yeah, so Christian had a bit of bad luck in this
Rolls
race
it over there.
where
Watch it.
he got a bit tangled with some of the other guys. So this gave me quite a comfortable lead, and yeah, I just have to
That's
see
a
it
big
out
break
till
right now for
till the end.
Alex. Christian with a traction roll coming out of the chicane.
So after the start here, like you've got a fair old lead, and what, you just walk away with it from here on.
Yeah. So the rest of the race was a bit uneventful, but it was
So the gap
I was
right
able to
now,
get the
there's
win in
Alex
one.
across the line. Here comes Silver across the line. 3
And
seconds.
these, I can't believe this how fast these 13.5s like look on camera and at the track.
4:30 to go,
Like it is
4:30,
phenomenal.
A lot of time left.
Like on this track, the difference I think between mod and 13.5, I think on the best laps of this track's half a second.
Half a second only.
Yeah. Through the infield, like we're probably just as quick as the mod cars, but then onto that sweeper down the straight, that's where they just go.
Yeah, of course.
Second spot behind you if he catches you. 40 seconds ago. Thank you, Toby. Easy. Oh, no.
Last 40 seconds.
Oh, man, a mistake.
Oh, look out.
Luckily, he hung on, kept the rubber to the tarmac. Watch it in front of you, Christian.
Do you enjoy racing with Scott Ernest commentating, or you sort of block it out?
Look, it's always good.
30 seconds
commentate,
ago,
but it's also
25
good
seconds
hearing him
now.
commentate you leading the
Alex,
national.
Kristen, Nathan, and Tom. Mark 5. Followed by Terry, Lackland, Lincoln, Toby, and Chris.
Yeah, no, we were lucky in that we had
20
some
seconds
sponsors for the event, and we were
Alex down
able
the
to
line.
get Scotty over.
Christian down the
as a
line.
commentator.
1.8 is the
Yeah.
gap.
That is
10 seconds
fantastic.
ago,
Well,
the
he
final
definitely
lap.
run
number one,
Scotty and the club definitely
13.5.
run a tight ship as far as the race program and everything.
Time has finished. Drivers race to the finish line.
Yeah, so this race I was running a 4K rear diff, and the temps were quite hot.
These guys
So
racing
I
in the
opted to
back
put
of
a
the field
5K in
here.
for A2,
Every spot important. They're racing
which
down
we'll
the
cover that when we
straightaway.
get to it.
Beautiful. Fantastic. So that was A1, and you cleaned up there. So going into A2, do you feel less pressure or more pressure?
I'll probably say less because you've already banked a good run. Like having win under your belt is good. When you don't have that going into A2, there is more pressure to perform and get that win.
Yep. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Let's have a look at Simo's race. Oh, you got A2.
Oh, A2. Here we go. Jeez.
Here we go.
We're going
This is the start of A2.
Sound of the tone.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so this one I had a 5K dip in for this race, but the temps dropped a fair bit.
Starting on pole.
And the car was a bit more of a handful to drive with the heavier diff.
Oh, no, trouble, Mark.
And again, Christian
Oh, no.
spun on that same corner. So again, I got lucky with this race.
That is a huge
Chris Mitchell did come through the
opportunity
field
for
to give me a
Alex.
bit of a run for my money.
Christian had a
He
small
had
problem in
a
the first
pull off
final.
in A1, so he had a fresh set of tires for this
Chris
race.
Mitchell is
Yeah.
second.
And you were on
Alex
second
out
run
front.
tires.
I was on second run, yeah.
So you didn't have new ones for A2?
No, I used my new ones.
later,
I used
down
my
the
second
straight
set in
Alex
Q4 and 5,
Chris
so I can
Mitchell is in three.
lock in
Nathan
A2
Teddy,
on
followed by
the
Mark
second
Tom.
spot.
So you only left yourself one set of tires for the finals.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So you're killing it again. And who have you got behind you, Chris Mitchell?
Chris Mitchell from WA.
Yeah.
Chris absolutely got game here in A2.
Yeah, so this is where he started to reel me in a bit, but I was my lines weren't the best because I was again just keeping off the curbs and trying to not pin it.
There you go. 25 seconds left.
Which is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, especially like
I
needed this week to secure the title.
One more time. This is the final lap.
I think I stopped breathing about from here.
Alex Illevski to win in A1. A win here would seal the deal. Mitchell's got something to say about it.
He's breathing right down your neck.
Go for the final
No,
time.
he was.
Time is finished. Race to the finish line. Finish.
We had nothing to lose.
Down the line.
Boom.
Alex taking a win.
Well, that's how you win a national champion, hey?
Yeah.
Calling it done. And A3, did you put the car down or you didn't put the car down for A3?
No, I decided to sit it out, and given the second place and third place were up for grabs, so I thought I'd let the other boys battle that out, and it was actually a good race to watch, so I'm glad I did.
It was really good. In A3, we had Christian out in front who just dropped the hammer and went.
Yeah, he walked away from the field.
He didn't make that mistake that he made in A1 and 2. Obviously, he'd learned and probably had a fresh set, or I don't know, but he just dropped the hammer and walked away. It was really, really good. Fantastic. All right, let's have a look at yours, Simo. What have you got to show us? What have we got here?
All right, we're getting our grid set here. We got Simon Nicholson.
Oh, A1.
Antonio Coretti in the 2. Jeffrey Mackey in the 3. Jeff Hammond in the 4.
So we had Simon Nicholson off 1, Anthony Coretti off 2. So Yokomo is 1 and 2 there. We had John Puce, Steve Cornell.
How we doing on our marshals?
Had a really good field.
Number 1, Christian, where are you?
Christian didn't want to go out to Marshall now.
Christian, Marshall. Thank you. All right. It is time here for Amy.
Talk us through it, Simo.
Yeah, so this one was kind of worrying from the start because none of us drove this morning. We didn't know what was going to do anything.
We're going racing on the sound of the tone.
So it was all a bit of a learning curve for the first few laps.
Number 1, a modified Simon starting on pole.
So because I kept that harder diff in from the start, I could feel the car was a little bit on edge, on power at the start of the run. So I just, tried to keep it a bit smooth, not really push too hard for the first few laps, to let it kind of bed in and get used to it all, and hoping it just would kind of soften up a bit and the tires would come in, and yeah.
And you got Jeffrey Mackey, is it?
Yeah.
Breathing down your back?
Yeah, so he was close this whole final. I know it's a hard track to pass, so and the car wasn't working great this run. So all I had to do was just keep it on the corners every time, and not make any mistakes, and just hold it for the 5 minutes.
Yeah. And this was on second run tires, new tires.
No, this was new.
This was new tires.
Yeah.
Leading away, Jeffrey Mackey is second. Jeff Hammond is.
I suppose with the intention to get one in the bank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, once you get that one run, especially with no qualifier, normally you have the qualifier, one last qualifier before the final, same day. And without that, it was a bit daunting going into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you get the feel of it, then
excellent, Jordan. Easy
okay
following,
from there.
easy here. 35 seconds to go. 35 left.
So you've got a fair gap out here.
Jeffrey across the
Yeah,
line.
I
1.2.
started once the car came
Stop,
in
thank
and
you.
the
Seconds
tires
about to
came on and
follow.
stuff. I started to pull away a little bit.
And
I still
it's
didn't
still
want
three.
to overly push it,
20
just in case.
seconds to go. We are going to go one more time.
When you run those harder
Air
dips, it
modified,
can do
AMA number
some
one.
random things sometimes on you.
Simon and Jeffrey down the line. The
I didn't
gap
want that to
9
happen
tenths of
at
a
all.
second.
So I just
The
this
extra
final I was
final
driving
lap
quite
here.
easy.
Jeffrey's been able to match Simon's last time.
And all you got to do is finish in front, right? So it doesn't really
Simon has
matter
finished,
how much you
racing
win
the
by.
finish line. A perfect drive. Start to finish, tone to tone. Simon Nicholson, your winner.
You just make it look easy. I don't know how, but you just make it look like it's a 21 point. And not that 21.5 is easy, but yeah, that's a lot of car control to actually be able to. When the car's that overpowered, the biggest thing is actually driving it slow, and like I said, hitting the lines, not lighting it up, because they're just so easy just to squeeze too hard or brake too late or no, you've absolutely. What do we got here?
This is the disaster one.
This is a disaster run. Why are we showing this one? This is one that you completed one lap, yeah?
Yeah. So I think this was the only mistake I made all weekend, and it was a bad one.
And it was somewhat unforced as well, wasn't it?
So you could see straight from there the start. Car was trying to over rotate on me. I was hoping that diff was going to be better by this run, but if anything, it actually got a bit worse. I think.
And he is not rolling fast.
Yeah. So once that happened, you may as well stop and save the tires.
Yeah, because you're not going to pull up at the Nationals. You're not going to pull up and make your way back up to first position. You know what I mean?
No, that's right.
And all you're going to do is completely smoke those tires and everything trying.
Yeah. And, it's a huge advantage to have like one lap old tires compared to the other guys that are mostly all on second lap tires.
Yeah.
Made A3 a lot easier.
And have a look at this race here. This is where we've got Johnny Puce, Damon Perry, and Jeff Hammond battling it out for second, third, and fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good race to sit out and watch. Actually.
Yeah. Look at them. I think John Puce described it as the race of his life.
Yeah.
That was the best I've seen John race.
It was
5 seconds ago.
I think it was about 5 or 6 laps or so where they were nose to tail and Jeff Hammond couldn't get past him. Yeah, he was driving really well.
Second is Hammond.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It was pretty clean racing. Like there was a few errors, but like you said, there was a good, like you said, 6-7 laps where they were just going at it.
Yeah,
and it was really good to see because that's what we like is the close racing.
Yeah,
of course. Not everybody can just pull the trigger and walk away with it, Simo.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I suppose we had A3. I don't know if we got that there, Beach, but that was you just dropping the hammer from the get-go and again walking away with it, huh?
Yeah, that was a good run. You always like to have those ones, don't you, where you can just walk away with it. But no, like I went back on them setup changes and the car.
This one absolutely wide
and we touched on it before. I mean, we didn't even know that this was going to happen. And like you said, after you binned it in A2, then we had a massive downpour, and it looked like the day could have got cancelled.
One more time. A main number 3, Simon Nicholson.
Look at this.
Leading away from pole, your top qualifier. Simon's got a 1 and a
yeah, unfortunately, Anthony had a few bad runs in all his finals with tangles up with other cars and that. So it was a shame he couldn't, go with us every final there to hopefully.
Well, yeah, it was a real heartbreak of the modified field to qualify second and pretty much he DNF 2 finals and.
Yep.
Just had really bad dramas with traffic and with problems, and it's just not nice to see. Because obviously, I mean, he had the raw pace.
Yeah. He didn't have one clean final at all, which was unfortunate.
But unfortunately, it's like that, isn't it? Like you have good days and bad days.
Yeah, that happens for sure. Happens to everyone.
Yeah. It's Simon, Jeffrey, Jeff. Perry Saunders.
Oh,
So yeah, this race, Jeff Hammond and Jeffrey Mackey had a close fight. I think Jeff Hammond was on new tyres for this race, and Jeffrey Mackey was
Halfway there,
on
2.5
old tyres.
down, 2.5 to
Yeah.
go.
So I don't know.
Simon, Jeffrey, Jeff,
I don't know if
Todd,
this
John,
race
Jordan,
would have affected the overall position for them or not.
Jeff, Todd,
Between
John,
P2 or
Jordan,
P3.
Steve Lionel.
Nah, because
One
Mackie had already
minute
had
to
a
go,
win.
1 to go.
Right.
Later coming through traffic. Simon right now with a 4.8 second lead.
it's still good to see the close racing.
Yeah. Yep.
And of all the people like on the grid, I suppose, in close racing or close combat, if you want to be doing it with anybody, you probably want to be doing it with Jeff Hammond because he's,
35 seconds to go.
generally got so much control over his car.
Yeah, it was good watching him with Pusey in that second final.
In A2, yeah.
Good job, guys. That's second, third. Thank you.
And by now, you just walked away with it.
Yeah. The car was good this run.
Your modified champion, Simon Nicholson.
I bet it felt good.
Yeah, of course. Every national win feels good. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, I suppose, looking back now, it was just really good. It was really good to see the way that the whole team worked together, the Yokomo Hearns team. We had one of the biggest, definitely had the strongest team there, even if we weren't the biggest team. We were definitely, there's a lot of help going on and stuff. I suppose one thing we didn't talk about too much yet is the tyre prep. Now, that was a bit, I suppose, a little bit unique or a little bit different because it was a controlled event, I suppose, or controlled tyre like it always is. And, people had their secrets and this and that, but you guys were pretty much just getting your sanding stick out, sanding off the center bead, cleaning it down with a bit of the Dominate, which was put on by the club. And then 15 minutes before throwing the goop on, putting the warmers on, and then out you go.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard, that kind of tyre prep, most places you go. It's pretty normal.
Yeah. And I suppose and one of the hot ups and something that I'm really excited about is your car, Simo, had K&M Motorsport belts on it.
Yep.
And since then, we've reached out, we've had chats, and we're actually bringing them to Australia, and they're going to fit all the modern touring car stuff. And the guy over there, he's making some really cool stuff now, the brass roll center shims, which are black and laser etched, and stuff like that. So we're really proud to, that sort of come from spending time with you, and we're able to forge a relationship with him as well. So it's really good to have these events, and out of it comes, good products and good development for not only our team, but we can those parts that are coming in, they'll fit all the major brands.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Fantastic. So I suppose now, guys, do you want to open it up to a bit of question and answer?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what have we got there? What have we got in the background? Who wants to answer this one?
I'd say yes, it does affect it for diff and shock oil. Depending where you race in the world, if you go from a track that's 40-degree air temp to 10-degree air temp, then yes, that makes a difference. But from day to day, say if you go from 20-degree to 25-degree kind of air temp, it's not really a massive change. And I'd say probably track grip would more affect what you do with those changes rather than air temps or track temps. But yeah, usually, it's pretty common for really hot, you would use, harder diff. Really cold, you use softer diff. Yeah.
Does it affect you? Do you often change the shock oils because of temperature or just because of track conditions? I suppose that is
same thing. Not so much. Yeah. More about track grip and tires as well. Which tires?
Yeah, fantastic. What other questions have we got there? Here we go.
Johnny, please. So roll centers for the weekend ended up with 2 mil in the rear, under the rear arms, and 1.5 under the fronts. I've always kind of liked a staggered rear to front breakup, whereas Simo, like you said, he prefers a balanced front and rear. I think it just suits my driving style a bit better, and it helps the car under brakes as well for me.
Helps the car under brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going back to your setup sheet here. What are we looking at? The front. So under the front.
Yeah. So I'm running a half split currently.
Yeah. So 0.5 mil stagger across the chassis of the car.
Yeah.
But across, like the A and B, like across the front axle, you don't run a stagger or like an anti-dive?
Dependent on the track and the track conditions.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will run a 0.5 mil split between the front and front rear. Just depends on the track and on the day.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful. Anybody else got some questions for us?
So from Anthony, how much time on track do you have for setup? Depends what event you go to, like if it's a state titles event or any kind of normal event, it's 1 day. National events, you have 2 days. But the good thing with the BD11, like I was saying before, once you got that good base set up, you don't really need to play with it much. Like at the Nationals on the Thursday, I actually made no changes to the car at all for the whole day. I was just playing with bodies. And then like literally only done 2 runs of setup changes and that was it. So it's good to have a car like that under you that you don't really need to make too many changes.
Yeah, correct. I think because I did I went in a full circle from Thursday to Friday afternoon. I pretty much ended where I almost started with my setup.
Yeah. Which is a good way to be, I suppose. Like you said, it's good to have that and that'll give you the confidence going to the next meeting, knowing that hopefully you can just put the car down and just learn the track and focus on driving it.
Well, typically track to track, you don't tend to change too much. I guess if it's a good control tire, there's minor changes to suit that track, but there's no major drastic changes that you do.
Yeah. And I can see we got Paul who's asked, how's the durability of the BD10? I mean, it depends. Durability is a funny thing. The durability of Simon Nicholson's car is going to be really good. Durability of my car, which is overpowered by somebody who can't really drive it that well, is not going to be so good, But they are race cars, so they're not really designed to be crashed. But as far as durability, I don't think that they really are subject to a lot of wear and tear, other than the belts and the pulleys, which, I mean, that's why we've got these new belts in to really firm up the drive line. I think the car's actually really good, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of the drivetrain is tried and tested as far as the drive shaft, the front drive shafts, the rear drive shafts, the bulkheads, the diffs, the spools, all that stuff has been tried and true Yokomo stuff. And it's proved itself pretty reliable.
Yeah, the driveline's really good in this car. I've been through a few cars in my time, and one thing that really amazes me with this car, the drive shaft blades. I can leave, even in mod, I can leave them in for 6 months or more, no issues. Where other cars I've been in, they would break after 2 batteries. So it's little things like that that really make a big difference.
Yeah. But that said, I mean, you're not crashing into a fire hose, on full lock under full noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, they're a race car, so to have the speed, to have the lightness of them, you got to make compromises somewhere. And they're fine as long as you like you're saying, smashing into concrete walls or something like that. No matter what you run, it's going to break, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they're, super powered mod cards. So we've got a question there from Glenn Wilson.
I think we both used the twister, Glenn. I know Simon's body was a bit lower than mine. I had mine mounted up quite a little bit higher than Simon did. How
Did
forward did you mount yours?
you run a rake across your body?
Yeah. So I was using mine at 6 mil forward.
Yep.
And then I basically just run it so the front of the body, you just keep a bit of a small lip on it, and then just play with the rear height. And I was playing with that a lot on Thursday actually, and it makes a fair difference. But you just got to same thing. Like it comes down to personal preference. What you feel is best for you.
So when you say you played around with the rear height, that's obviously you're talking about how high that the body sits on the rear body posts, or where the body posts sit on the shock tower. So when you say you changed it a fair bit, are you talking like 1 millimeter? You're talking like 5 millimeters?
Normally about 1 mil changes.
Yeah. That's
just
that's incremental. Like I said, I don't know that mere mortals, like I wouldn't even feel that. I'd be too busy scraping up bits from the track. You know what I mean? Like I'm just happy the car holds together. They did have new body rules for this event, or a revision to the body rules. Is that right? Before this event, which was an adaptation from overseas.
I don't think it was I don't think they were new. I just think they were rules that were in the RCRA rule set that weren't really implemented at other events.
Yep. So the front splitter, the front lip had to be 3 mil. Is that right?
I might be wrong, but I think it was a minimum of 2 mil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And body height wasn't so much of an issue, or overhang on the wing was different on this one.
No.
But yeah. Anyway, but it was really cool. What have you got there? What does John Pugh ask? Where can we expect to see the Yokomo Australia team appear next? Where's the circus going?
Possibly to TFTR Masters. It'd be a good event to get down there. We haven't really gone as a team down there yet to Melbourne. So I know there's a few new drivers down there that have just got some BD11s since the Nats. So it'd be good to get down there and, have a chat to them and give some setup help down there and show everyone down there what Yokomo Australia is all about. Yeah. And even Yokomo Japan stood up and watched, didn't they, after this event? Yeah, for sure. They couldn't actually believe how strong and how good a team were actually running down here, and how well, the car. I mean, to take out both modified and 13 champions is not only a big call, but we also had really good numbers in both A mains. And even in 21.5 somewhat, we had like 4 cars in the A main as well. So I think that the team is really good and really strong. And it's definitely a great product, the car itself. And you guys are obviously super talented. And we couldn't do it without you, Yeah, it makes it good when you got a good backing of drivers behind you, and that's what we do well, I think, compared to like when you see a lot of others at the tracks and that. We work as a team, and it shows with the results, and everything comes down to the setup help, and the like the atmosphere at the track as well. Yeah. We're always the one who looks like that's having fun, and we're also getting the results at the same time. So it makes a good atmosphere.
Yeah. And I see Brett Wilson just asked a question. How can others get involved with Team Yokomo Australia? Well, I suppose it's getting in touch with Hearns. I mean, we're the main importer distributor for Australia of the brand itself. And then from there, we can put you in touch with obviously the good products, the Yokomo products, and put you in touch with the team, and the team will take you under their wing. You know what I mean? We've got you guys and Johnny Puce and the lads up there in New South Wales doing really good. down here in Victoria. We've got Matty Jenkins, who's running the team for us down here. We've got a couple. We've got Chris Stack that's come back, and a couple of new faces that are coming to the team. So I think we're really going to build a good little team for ourselves. And like you said, it's a really good little community that we've got. And I was really, really pleased that I personally got the opportunity, because obviously during the past couple of years, there hasn't been a whole heap of travel and interstate races. So I wasn't personally able to get in touch with all the guys that I'd spoken to over the telephone the past couple of years. So it was really good to go out there, give you all neck rubs, goot your tires, and and say hello.
Yep.
Fantastic, guys. Well, I think we've put an hour into this, and I think that we should look at winding this one up. Have we got anything else or anything that we want to cross? Oh, here we go. I love this little video. This is how cool the BD11 is. Who's that? Is that Nico? Whose body is that?
That's Nico's. Yep.
Great looking car. Yeah, well, thanks heaps, guys, for joining us on this show.
Thanks for having
I
us.
hope everybody has really got a lot out of it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. We had an awesome nationals. We've got an awesome team. It's been a big 2022, and we're really looking forward to keeping it going with 2023. So on behalf of Hearns Hobbies and Hearns Racing, a big thank you to everybody who's watched. I hope that we've all learned something from the wizardry of Alex and Simon, the current national champions, with 11 national titles between them in on-road, and look for big things from the team in 2023 and beyond.
Yep.
Fantastic, guys. Well, I think we'll sign out. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys really enjoyed the show.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks for having us, Brett.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.